Welcome back, baseball fans. 1979-82 draft. We got the first two rounds wrapped up. We did the first round and did the spreadsheet. Look at that. Tonight we're going to go through the teams and see how their new players kind of blend in and who they took in the first and second round, beginning with Toronto. In the first round, they took Rod Carew, the big off-season trade. He would be the best statistical player for a Blue Jay team in this era. The Blue Jays really don't get started until like 83, 84, 85, when Lloyd Mosby and Jesse Barfield and George Bell and Tony Fernandez arrived. But getting him to play first is really going to help this team. And their other draft pick was actually a draft and trade. They drafted Barry Evans, 81 card, and traded him to Detroit for Tom Niedenfuhr, who actually gets even better than this and has a very nice early 1980s period with the Dodgers. So they'll be able to close some games out, which could help this young team. That's what Toronto did with the first two picks. Next up, the White Sox. So the White Sox, with the first pick in the draft, they went to corner outfield and found Harold Baines. He's been eligible for 3 years, 80, 81. They finally pulled the trigger on the 82 card. He hits lefties very well, has a great range and arm there, and he's a complete ball player finally, more so than an 80 and 81. And then they added a couple 79 players in the second round. They added Thad Bosley, who was actually would be a nice platoon with Rusty Kuntz in left field, lefty and righty there. And they have another lefty starter, Ken Kravick, teaming up with Britt Burns. So that's what they have done in the first two rounds of the draft. Arizona. Well, they had a very splashy first round pick in that they got the Ryan Sandberg card. See, with his 82 year with the Cubs. He'll play a couple years with them before the 84 card goes over to Chicago. But again, the expansion teams need to get some talent here and there. So Ryan Sandberg is a big win for Arizona. And they also got 79 Mike Vail, who hits .330 against lefties. So this team always is built around batting average, and Arizona's doing pretty well with those picks. Next up, Ohio players. They made a big splash with their first round pick. They took this guy, Dick Davis, his 1981 card, where he hits .333, and that doesn't bring you any defense. Not only that, I got a log jam in the outfield because they got Easler, Jerry White, Jerry Mumphrey, and George Hendrick. But they couldn't resist adding another .333 bat to the team, and he's got to be a DH, and maybe they'll trade Jerry White because they don't need him anymore. The other player they took will be Vida Blue, and they took his 1980 card. This is what the original 1980 looked like. This is what the reissue looks like. 1980 Vida Blue, probably his last really good year with an ERA below 3. And he'll be backing up, of course, 1980 Mike Norris for the Ohio team. All right, next, the San Diego Padres. They went old and young here. In the first round, they went back to the old guard and got Randy Jones, 1979 season. This would be the last really good year for Randy in San Diego with pitching on 3 days rest. He doesn't do it after this, and his career is going to be cut short a little sooner than predicted. That was the first round pick, and then they double up with rookies from the 81 set. They took George Frazier, who actually was a Yankee reliever. George Frazier is famous for losing 3 World Series games in 1981, though his ERA is $1.60, you see there. So they have him, along with Gary Lucas. And they also took this guy, Joe LaFay. A nice corner outfielder with plenty of homers and on base with walks, and a nice arm, doesn't make a lot of errors. Joe LaFay, son of Jim LaFay, I'm assuming. The Dodger great. And yeah, that's some nice work there from your Padres, getting the old Randy Jones and those young guys. All right. 5 down. Let's go to St. Louis. Show me the way to St. Louis. In the first round, they doubled up with guys from 71. They took Dane Orge's 81 card. This is a 327 card for Dane. And they doubled that up with John Martin. Martin has a nice 1981 as well. Starter relief. 341 ERA and 100 innings. Nice player there. And in the second round, they took their 1982 player from a World Series team, of course, and that would be Willie McGee. Now, the other guys from that 82 Cardinal championship team are not in town yet, as the Padres are holding on to Ozzie Smith presently. And the Padres are holding on to Ozzie Smith, and the Phillies are holding on to Lonnie Smith. All right. Next up is Oakland. Oh, this clever stuff here. So, in the first round, Oakland took Keogh, Matt Keogh. And what a nice rotation. McCaddy's best year, Langford's best year, Underwood, and Keogh. And then they took a couple of relievers, Lacey and Jeff Jones, joining Jamie Easterly. So they have a really outstanding pitching staff. Does Oakland, the young Oakland A's with Billy Martin. There was a famous Sports Illustrated cover of the Oakland A's and their amazing 5 aces. Came out in like May of 1980, I think. All right. Next up, the New York Mets. 8th team. Then I'll pause this for a moment. Mets. They were busy. They actually took all of their keepers from 2 different seasons, 79 and 82. So the first pair were pitchers Craig Swan from 79, pitches on 3 days rest, joining Glenn Abbott, who they acquired in a trade, and Kevin Cobell as a 3-starter. And they also picked up Doug Bear in the offseason. Nice pitcher here. And they have Reardon back there. They got Falcone and Houseman. They actually have a pretty decent pitching staff. And they also took John Stearns. Nice 293 card here. What's really good about it is that he's better against righties with power. And his batting average is good against lefties. But I like him hitting righties better, actually. And they acquired Dan Meyer in the big Pete Rose trade. So, yeah, this Met team has still got a lot of punch. They still have that Joel Youngblood and Lee Mazzilli. So, those are nice moves for the New York Mets. All right, let me pause a moment, and then we'll pick up with the number 9 team. Okay, the Colorado Rockies. So in the first round, they took 2 selections from the year of 82. They took, oh my goodness, Jason Thompson's big 1982 with the Pirates. Look at all the power and on base. And they doubled that up with Ron Reed, who's probably 39 years old, I'm going to guess, in 82. But look, he's got one of his best years ever. Did it with the Phillies. Also pitches with the White Sox a little later on. That was their first round pick. Then they got the Commissioner Award pick for roster participation. It's a compensatory pick between rounds 1 and 2. So it's like getting your 8th round pick between rounds 1 and 2. And with a compensatory pick, they picked the first guy who was on the waiver list that they liked. And that's this 1980 Johnny Grubb. Sort of looks like a LaFay person. Nice power and on base and walks. And this is sort of what a Colorado Rocky looks like. Homers and walks. And then in the second round, they took Butch Hobson, that Boston had given up on. Look at all the power. Perfect Colorado Rocky player. So the Rockies just keep building the team out in their traditional way. Homers, walks, and strikeouts, and not really paying too much attention about pitching. All right, next up, Boston. Oh boy, yeah. Tradition here, tradition. In the first round, they had to go, of course, with the magnificent 1979 Jim Rice card What a run for 3 years, 77 through 79 for Jim Rice. Just total magic here. And then they would also, in that same year of 79, take the Eckersley card. And he's going to pitch on 3 days rest. He'll take over the top spot from Bill Lee in the rotation. And they also added, in the second round, they added Carlton Fisk, his 1980 card, his final year in Boston before he goes to the White Sox. So they'll have him this card for 2 years, and then he'll have to be traded to Chicago after that. All right, the Giants. Next up, the San Francisco Giants. Let's see. First round pick. Oh, Jack Clark. Yep. This great 1980 card for Jack Clark. Look at what he does to lefties here. Range and arm still. Plenty of power versus righties. His best card in this era. And then they would also take Ed Whitson. It's actually pretty good. This is the stats are on the other Ed Whitson card, which is should have 2 Ed Whitsons in here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, 3.10 ERA. But look at just the 7 home runs allowed in 212 innings. This is what the original card looked like, but we're using of course, the reissued 80 cards for the league. Those 2 guys were the first round pick, and in the second round, they took Joe Morgan, and yes, he is a Giant, if you were wondering. And he actually has a resurgence here. He really stumbles to about 230, 240 for about 4 or 5 years, and boom, 82, he's back up to 289, having a fine year. Last year with the Giants. So, yeah, the Giants are looking pretty good. They have to look good because the Dodgers won the World Series last year. And the Giants have got to put up some competition this year. All right, the Cincinnati Reds. Creeping up to that 1981 season where they had the best record in baseball. I played a season of that many, many years ago. It was the 81-84 season, and the Reds won the World Series. So there's some precedent. They, of course, weren't invited to the playoffs because of this first half, second half format. Funny, the Reds and the Cardinals were the best records in the National League in 81, and neither team made the playoffs. Instead, it was Houston and the Dodgers, and it was the Phillies and the Expos. Anyway, enough of that. Their first round pick was a spite pick. They wanted to really tick off the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they stole one of their guys in a trade with Cleveland, Lee Lacy. They're going to put him in left, but they can put him at third base if they need to for a few minutes. Yeah, 3-12, double-A stealer, has a -2 arm. They got Butler in center, Griffey in right. Nice outfield. And then in the second round, they had 2 selections, and they brought back David Concepcion's 79 card as a 1 shortstop. And returning to Cincinnati's Fred Norman. He was out in the wilderness for a bunch of years. Now he's returned to Cincinnati, his last go-around with them in 79. So their rotation is Seaver Soto, Price Norman. The Cincinnati Reds. All right, next up, your Texas Rangers. All right. The Texas Rangers were one of the many baseball teams that Bobby Bonds played for. Oddly enough, he was their first round pick, but it's with his 79 card here. And it's a pretty nice card. 2-2E9, ace stealer, 25 home runs. Did that with the Cleveland Indians in 79. But he has yet to play for Texas, and now he is. He's a Ranger. And they got Rivers in center, they have Stallman Lentine in left, and they have Zisk at DH. This is why Al Oliver never got a chance here in Texas with this roster. No space for him. And in the 82 box, they would take Fergie. Fergie Jenkins is still, he's got to be like 38, 39 years old by then. 1982. Look at that. He's still delivering the goods there. 3.15 ERA for Fergie. And nice little pick here. Took him out away from the Mets. Wally Backman. His 82, the on-base percentage, and yeah. A little bit of power, some on base. Texas is another team that doesn't care too much about defense. They got Putnam, Backman, and Rossello on the right side of the infield. Ouch. Yeah. All right, next up, the Florida Marlins. Let's see what they did. Oh, okay. They improved Hal McRae. This is one of the first improvements. It means that they had Hal McRae's 1980 card, and all they did was they bumped it up to the 82 card because of the power and the doubles. This is Hal McRae's best year for extra base hits. He hit 332, I believe, in 76, but still, I think this is Hal McRae's best year overall. And from the 79 set, nice little pair of pitchers here. They took Dan Schatzeder's 79, was an Expo. Nice little year, 283 year 8, 160 innings. And they also took this Francisco Barrios card away from the White Sox. And it's actually a pretty good card for Francisco. Just 95 innings. I'm guessing he got hurt or something because he did very well for the White Sox in 77 and 78. But then this is the last we would see of him. So I don't know what happened to Francisco. All right, your Minnesota Twins, your Twinks. What did they do? Oh boy, yeah. Well, we talked about them trading Rod Carew away. No big deal. They got a new first baseman. He's a young gun, and boy, is this guy ready, isn't he, folks? Ken Urbick, 211, first base. Love how he kills lefties. Oh, and righties, of course. He's ready to go. Ready to go to some All-Star games and get this thing on the road here. He's not showing any. He actually was a rookie in 81. So I don't think he's gets Rookie of the Year votes in 82. I don't know about how the rookie status was. They added Dave Goltz. He's a reliever. Where's Goltz? There he is. He's a reliever now. Long man. And then they also added Mike Marshall and Jeff Zahn. And actually, I think their pitching staff is almost complete. Their bullpen is. That's their bullpen. Corbett, Johnson, Marshall, and Goltz. Excellent. And starting pitching, Kuzman, Zahn, and Arroyo. And then you do get one more starter in the draft. Not bad, Minnesota. Not bad at all. We'll look at Seattle, and I'll take another little break here. Seattle Mariners had some fun with the first round pick. Boy, did they have some fun. Here he is, folks. Beer Stein. We love him. The beer man, the Beer Stein. First, third, second, short, all the outfield. Oh, yeah. He hits 330 for you. So there you go. 330 hitting. Jack of all trades, master of none. Bill Stein, they love him in Seattle. He actually was a Ranger. Also played for Seattle during the timeline. He was the improved first-round pick. And in the second round, they got Gaylord Perry. This is actually a nice little get here. It's a 79 card with the Padres. It was very good still. Eventually, he does actually end up on the Seattle team in 1982. But now they got him where he's still pitching well. So they have him and Floyd Bannister, the Mike Parrott's best year. It's a fun little, fun little Seattle Mariner team. All right, let's take a little break and we'll give you 8 more teams. All right, next up on the clock are the Houston Astros. And let's see what they did. Okay, interesting. We've noticed that by the middle of the second round, teams are starting to tune into this improving player thing, which is interesting. It sets up the draft in the front of the draft excellently, but it makes the end of the draft take forever because it means that the teams will have 20 or 19 or 18 or 17 man rosters, and they have to go onto the street and sign guys to take up the utility spots. Anyway, the first round pick was a no-brainer. I think the best Astro of the 70s, Cesar Cedeno. Still has everything. He's not a 1 anymore, but still, he's going to hit 309 with this card. Yep. And this is the cool thing they did about their infield. In the middle of their infield, they improved Dickie Thon. He was second base last year. Now they're going to kick him over to short, and he hits better. And they introduced Bill Duran to play second base. So that's your new double play combination in Houston, Duran to Thon. Nice moves. All right, Detroit is up next. They were part of a trade. First of all, in the first round of the draft, they took 79 pitchers over Senior Smoke. Senior Smoke, Aurelio Lopez, nice year, and hit John Hiller as a lefty from 79. And then at the beginning of the second round, Toronto was on the clock, and the Tigers offered Tom Niedenfuhr, who you saw earlier in this draft. They traded Tom Niedenfuhr to the Blue Jays plus a draft token for the rights to draft Barry Evans. And here is Barry Evans. So this is the new Tiger third baseman. As they don't have Tom Brookins and they don't have Darrell Evans yet, so they're going to have this guy, Barry Evans, playing third base. Then in the second round, they had a couple 1982 players. They took 82 Lou Whitaker. Of all the years, actually Whitaker and Trammell both are better in 83 and 84, but 82 Whitaker has some nice power finally. And they also took this Reed Nichols card of 82, and now they've got a problem with too many outfielders. You got Carbo, Nichols, LaFleur, Johnstone, and 5 outfielders, and Steve Kemp has to be DH. And they have a shortage of. They might have to get rid of somebody to balance the books on the. Yeah. Next up, the Phillies. Oh yeah. So first round was a no-brainer. We talked about the Pete Rose trade, and they took full advantage of it. So this is actually Pete Rose's first year in Philadelphia, finally. He was delayed his exit from Cincinnati to the Phillies with a sojourn in New York. Hit pretty well for the Mets, but now we officially got him to the Phillies with his Philly card of 79. And then they said, you know what, every time teams get like a 1-something shortstop, they do pretty well in the World Series. We've seen Mark Belanger, we've seen Bud Harrelson, heck, we've even seen Tommy Helms at second base as a 1-10 second baseman help those teams win World Series. So Boa, we don't care about the bat, we love the 1-7. Those two guys are paired up as first round picks, and oh boy, this is highway robbery, folks. They smuggled Eric Schau away from the Padres system. He was a Padre, and they ended up with him. And that sort of theft can really help this otherwise uninspiring Philly pitching staff once you get beyond Carlton and McGraw. But at least they went out and paid top dollar to get Schau. And they also took Bob Boone. They took his 82 card with a -4 arm. He had moved on to the Angels. Angels, of course, have Brian Downing catching. So the Phils said, shoot, we'll just hang on to Bob Boone. We like the -4 arm. So you got a -4 arm catcher and a 1-7 at short and a 1-25 at third. Yeah, Phillies. All right. Next up, Expos. They are making moves, folks. They're doing it. Expos have not done a whole lot in the carryover league in their history, but I think the tide is turning. 1979 and 1982 might be the golden era of the Montreal Expos, and they're taking advantage of it. Their first round pick was the 82 Al Oliver. This came out of nowhere. Left for dead in Pittsburgh and Texas, and all of a sudden, 1982, he's an Expo, and boom, he leads the National League in hitting. Leads the league in hitting and with 22 homers as well. So he's a first round pick. Oh, it gets even better. In the second round, they took the 81 Bill Gullickson. His best year, doesn't give up many homers or walks. Amazing card, really. And they improved Andre Dawson to his magnificent 1981 card. 24 homers in half a season because of the strike year AA stealer. This Expo team looks ready to go. You got Gary Carter, Al Oliver, and you have Larry Parrish and Tim Raines. So exciting young Expos. Is this their year finally? Next up, the Cubs. Is it their year finally? I don't think so. Okay, so the Cubs are having some fun with the draft. I don't know what that means exactly. They took Bobby Mercer because, my gosh, the guy hits a ton of home runs as a designated hitter, one way. And then they took Wayne Nordhagen. Where's Wayne? There he is. Ton of home runs. This 300 hitter. Look at that, 308 and plenty of home runs for Wayne. Then they got their 82 Jody Davis to be their catcher. And they also got Mike Krukow, arguably his best year. Might be 1982. He's with the Phillies now. Maybe that's a good thing for the Cubs that he's not. These stats aren't based on pitching in Wrigley Field. They're based on pitching at the vet. So, yeah, the Cubs, they got some nice players here. It's weird sort of collection, but yeah, that's the Cubs. All right, next up, the Brewers. Oh yeah, they are making signature moments to say we want to win the World Series. Screw the playoffs. We just want the damn World Series. So in the first round, they took 1980 Cooper. Would have been your most valuable player if George Brett didn't exist. He only hit 352 with this card. You see there. And then they got really cocky with their 1982 selections. They didn't add any players to the team whatsoever. They did a two improvement. They improved Molitor to get him over to third base since Gantner was at second, so his card of 302. And then, of course, they improved Robin Yount to his 82. He is the most valuable player of 1982. And now you got Cooper and Yount having their best years, Molitor, and Ogilvy's 40 home runs, and Gorman Thomas's best year, and Les Connor's best year. Somebody's got to bat seventh on this team. I don't know who it's going to be. My gosh, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your top 6 hitters, I guess. And then this guy's got about 7th, and this guy's got about 8th, and this guy's got about 9th. Process elimination. So, yeah. Anyway, that's your Milwaukee Brewers. Whew! That's scary. The Expos and the Brewers. Folks, I'm telling you. All right, Vegas. Not a lot of haul here. They only took individual players because they weren't sure who they wanted to double up with. But they took a great rookie, or a first-year player, we should call him, Leon Durham. This is his third year of eligibility. And what a year it is in 1982. They're putting him out in center field, folks. They're putting him out in center field because they still have Chris Chambliss here at first base. And last year they had Al Bunbury in center field, then he traded him away, so they needed a center fielder. So bad defense and all, he's still there. And John Denny's 81 card with the Indians. This was kind of a comeback for him. And then it gets even better for Denny when he goes to the Phillies. Has some nice years in 83 and 84. So nice moves there by the Las Vegas expansion team. All right. Next up, see what we got here. We'll do the New York Yankees and take another quick break. The Yankees disappointed. They won the division, but they disappointed in how they tumbled. They're trying their best, folks, to win a damn World Series. I mean, in the first round, they went with Goose Gossich's best card. Oh, my goodness. 81.77 ERA. The Goose. Rich Gossage. Yep. And from 81, hey, he's a real versatile player. How about this guy? Larry Milbourne. Switch hitter, plays all the infield positions, hits 313. Right? And then, in the second round, they doubled up with 79 players. This is the year Thurman died. But fortunately, Thurman can play the whole year for us. They have Ron Guidry. His 79 wasn't, of course, as good as 78. How could it be? But really, it's a nice card. 18-game winner, 2.78 ERA. Nothing to sneeze about with Guidry. Some really great years with the Yankees. And Greg Nettles. He's still a 1, and he still hits about 20 home runs. But they got Reggie. They traded for this Dave Rader, who hits 328. They got Spencer killing it. Nettles, Milbourne, North can get on base with walks. Willie Wilson at 326. Oh, and where's Reggie? Oh, yeah, Reggie. Reggie's 80 card, the year he hit 300. And, of course, Guidry, John. But the back end of this bullpen, folks, Gossage, Righetti, Tidrow, Leach, and Cauldill's going to be used as a starter, which is good enough. All right, let's take a little break, and we'll go to the final 8 teams. All right, your final 8 squads here, beginning with the Cleveland Indians. So in the offseason, they traded for Burt Blyleven. In the first round, he was their pick. First overall pick was Burt Blyleven, his 81 card, and yeah, he actually was a Cleveland Indian in 1981. Makes a lot of sense. Big year for him. Coming off of 2 years in Pittsburgh, one of which he won a World Series. Then they took from the 82 box, Andre Thornton. Slumped a little bit in 80 and 81, then he rebounds in 82 with 32 home runs for the Indians. And they also took a lefty reliever named Rod Scurry. His stats are better than the card. $174. was a Pirate, actually. Kind of walked some guys, but they needed a lefty to support Jim Kern. Nice moves by the Indians in the first 2 rounds. All right, next up, the Portland expansion team. Okay. They kind of made some fun moves. Portland was a surprise playoff team a year ago. So they went and got Chet Lemon to come back and play center field. He's still a 1 from 78, 79, and 80. But this is his best stick in 79. And then they also have Randy Lurch, really his last decent year. He's not great, but he's decent. 3.74 ERA. He can pitch on 3 days rest. So they have Royce and Lurch with Rasmussen in their rotation. Oh, and then in the second round, they improved this guy. Gary Ward was a Twin, I believe. Twins wouldn't need him. They got Ken Irving. They got Tom Bernanke. They could afford to lose this guy. And so there's your outfield for Portland. Ward, Lemon, Poole. Great defense by all of them. Poole's a 1.80. They also have Clint Hurdle's big year. They have Horner's big year. No surprise why Portland's shocked everybody, made the playoffs a year ago. All right, next up, your Pirates. This is the last chance. We talked. It's the 1979-82 carryover league. You know what happened in 79? Pirates won the World Series. So, do you know what their first 2 picks were? Well, in the first round, they doubled up with 2 79 guys. Pop Stargell, your MVP. And, of course, who else but the Cobra. Both guys actually would be in decline after this, for obvious reasons. But they're running it back one more time, going for that elusive World Series. Stargell and Parker. And in the second round, they added Rick Rhoden. Rhoden has some better years coming up at 83 and 84 for the Pirates. He actually pitches on 3 days rest here. So, innings eater, starter 7. Nice player. Rick Rhoden. All right. Kansas City Royals. What are they up to? They had the best record in the American League a year ago. Then they got bounced in the first round. That was rather unfortunate. They went pitching in the first round in the year of 81. It took 81 Larry Gura. They could have taken 80 or 81. He's a little bit better than 81, I think. Pitched on 3 days rest. And also from 81, they had Mike Jones they added. He's okay. He's like he'll be a number 3 starter, 3.20 ERA. And then the last guy, in the second round, they took their double play combination from 1982. Frank White and Ewell Washington. Okay, back after technical difficulties, we did Kansas City. Now we go to the Atlanta Braves. Final 4. Lost in the league championship a year ago. So, they made a big bang in the first round because they improved Dale Murphy to his MVP season of 1982. They got that card improved, and they added another knuckleballer. How about these guys? Boy, they'll have, if you got some time and a cup of coffee, and these 2 guys in the clubhouse, they'll talk your ear off. Phil Niekro and Charlie Huff throwing lots of knuckleballs for the Atlanta Braves. So those guys were their first round pick, and then in the second round, it was, Niekro was actually a second rounder. Huff was the first rounder. And they also took this guy, Gene Roof. The roof's on fire. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. He was a Cardinal in 81. But he'll bring on base to the launching pad of Atlanta. All right. Baltimore. The Orioles made the big move for their organization in the first round, folks. 1982, it is Cal Ripken, and he was the first round pick, and they're going to make him a third baseman in year 1, and they'll move Belanger to short, or they'll have Belanger play short, move Ripken in year 2 to short, and they have Jim Palmer, his 82 card, and then they also added Dennis Martinez, his 81 card. So that's what they've been doing. The California Angels, oh boy. Talk about bash. Bash Brothers and just bashing in general. My goodness. They took, in the first round, they took DeCince's 82 card. And they also took Ron Jackson's 82 card. Combine this with Brian Downing and Bobby Grich. Al Moon's a 300 hitting shortstop. And Dan Ford and Don Baylor's the 79 American League MVP. The only problem is all these guys are right-handed. Look at that. They're all right-handers. They have 2 lefties on the team. That could be their Achilles. And they also took Dave Frost in the 2nd round. And he pitches on 3 days rest. Backing up Nolan Ryan. Frank Tanana's not around to kick around anymore. So they've got to find somebody to replace Tanana later in the draft. And last but not least, your world champion Dodgers. Let's see what they did. They added 3 guys. In the 1st round, they added pitching. They had 81 Hooton and 81 Rick Honeycutt. Backing up Sutton and Sutcliffe in their rotation. And then in the 2nd round, they would complete their outfield by taking 1980 Reggie Smith. We haven't seen this card yet. My goodness. 2E2. He was never that good defensively. In the entire decade of the 1970s. I mean, he'd be a 2, but he'd be a E16 for Boston or St. Louis. But yeah, 2E2, and he hits 322. Was in the All-Star game, had injury problems by the end of his career. So that's a good look at the first 2 rounds. Thanks for checking this out, folks. We'll be back with the 3rd round next time.